Welcome to the Dear Entitled Radio Show with your hosts Nick Beardsley and Javi Mello.
What's going on, everyone? I'm Nick Beardsley, and this is my co-host Javi Mello, and you're listening to Dear Untitled Radio. Today, we're excited to bring you a signed project on Iron Shore Records, who is quickly capturing the heavy rock scene by storm, Alphamega. So thrilled you guys could make the time and get on here with us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you
for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
We're joined by Adam, Michael, and Chrissy, and I figure let's start with introducing you guys for the people who are listening audio only, so they recognize your voice and also the role you are in the band.
This is Adam Ryan. I'm vocals.
This is Mike. I play guitars.
This is Chrissy, and I play drums.
Really stoked to have you guys on. Just diving right in, obviously, Alphamega, for anyone who does not know, you guys have been seeing a lot of success lately. You have been grinding, for anyone who's been watching you, constant release of music, and obviously a lot of activity on social media. Shout out to, I know Chrissy is very active there. He and I feel like have gone back and forth a few times. Can you guys kind of take us back, obviously rewind, give people a backstory of, hey, how did the project kind of come together? How did you meet, get to know each other? You've obviously been in the industry for a while, but how did this project specifically form?
Well, there's a couple different stories on how we all met and stuff like that. I'll start with the one that I know. Adam and I, we toured back in 2014 on a tour, and we had kind of known each other from the scene before that. And then when we got on the tour, we hung out and saw each other, and that's how I kind of met Adam. It was on an In This Moment tour back in January 2013. So
wow. Shout out to In This Moment, too.
That's badass, awesome. Dude.
Yeah.
Love that, man.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that too. Yeah, Chrissy and I had sort of, with his previous bands and things like that, we were in the same scene, but somehow never played a show together and never crossed paths with each other until we got this In This Moment tour together with the band that I was in, and just started hanging a little bit before the tour. And then when we got on tour, became better friends, and it was kind of off to the races. And leading from that tour, it goes back to that point, and this is how it'll tie in, is that Chris actually met his now wife on that tour as well. And when I was leaving a project that I'll get into that included Mike, our wives actually were talking to each other at the time, and it was like, well, Chrissy's looking for a project right now. And I'm like, well, I know Chrissy, that's great. We're looking for obviously a drummer. And so our wives sort of made that initial interaction for joining Alphamega happen. So, like we were talking off camera, once again, the wives come in and save the day, right? So
the women in our lives. I was about to quote the same thing, dude.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, and so Adam and I were in a band together for a little bit, and then that's how I met him. And that started kind of winding down, and we were writing some new music together. We weren't sure if it was right for that project, and that ultimately segued into kind of starting something new. And like you just mentioned, he already had a drummer on tap, and so it all kind of came together really quickly, and it was all kind of birthed in the studio. We've been a studio kind of only band for the last several years until just last year we started finally playing live.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess there's not really, it's kind of a gray area of like when Alphamega, like for a specific date when you formed, because, it started snowballing since 2013, you said. So that's cool. Just with the relationships obviously growing and building. And I feel like more often than not in the scene, there's so many people like, oh, I know of them, but I've never either played a show together, never been in the same room together. Just like, they're there, I'm here. We just haven't collided. So to see that come together, that's really neat.
Yeah.
So I guess you guys, roughly speaking, if we're going to kind of pin a date on it, started pre-pandemic, and then obviously you released, I think it was a single, and then the pandemic hit and you got kind of confined to studio and everything like everyone else. The industry shut down, as many know. So how did that kind of like impact you as a new band? Obviously you just kind of getting to know each other, just kind of starting to work together and take off? Because obviously you had music in the pipes. You're just like, hey, let's release, let's go.
Then
How
the
did
whirlwinds.
that impact you guys?
I think it was actually a blessing because we weren't constrained to feeling like there was pressures or deadlines of having to do more than we could. So we were already planning on, we had studio time booked. We started in 2018, have done like a little bit of, like you mentioned, we released a couple singles, Lords of the Flies, and we realized quickly we wanted to do a full length. And so the pandemic just kind of forced us to only focus on being in the studio and recording and not have to worry about all this other stuff, shows and tours. And so it allowed us just to keep focused on one thing because we really didn't have a choice. But that was the thing we were intending to kind of be doing anyway.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's convenient especially to give you guys a solid foundation.
Well, it gave us the opportunity to, as we'll get further along here into the story and origins of the band and where it is now, it really gave us this arsenal of like an album's worth of music already in the barrel. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And the, sort of leading into how the band is where it is now and things with Iron Shore is like, over that pandemic period, we had the opportunity to really fine tune what we already had. And then we did some little releases here and there to just kind of give people an idea of what we were doing. And one of the songs that we released fell onto my buddy John from the band Bad Wolves, and he really liked the track. And that sort of is where the culmination of now what we've been doing with Iron Shore started with that interaction right there. That was April of 2021, I believe. Something
it's a blur,
like that.
Man.
So, it is because from the moment that John was like, I like this song, I know this guy in another band who's starting a label, he's probably going to be interested in hearing this, to when it finally turned into, whoa, we just signed a record deal, to we're going to record and things like that. Like, I don't want to jump too far ahead depending on what your roadmap was for today, but
good.
It's like,
no, you're good. You're good.
It's such a crazy, cool, like just unique story of like how all this stuff came together really, after all was said and done. And, John had played this song for, his name is Jake. He's in a band called Oni, which they're out there right now with Megadeth, and they're tour. They've been a band for a while now, doing really well. And
awesome.
They're a great band. They're really cool. Their previous stuff has like metal xylophone in it. It's pretty sweet. So,
badass.
Yeah, it is badass. And so, I got hit up by Jake, and he was like, yeah, man. He's like, I really like the music. He's like, send me everything you have. I want to hear more. And we just started that repertoire. And then, all the other guys were brought in on the conversation and back and forth. And over that summer, I mean, we literally got a contract sent over to us, and we went back and forth for a few months with like our lawyers and their lawyers, and we worked it all out. And in August of 2021, we signed a deal with Iron Shore, and I was actually in the hospital with COVID, and I signed the deal at like 1:30 in the morning, like on oxygen. Like, this better be it, you know what I mean? So,
ouch.
No way.
But,
God.
But anyway, so that's already just the beginning part of the story, which is a little, because I was explaining like, hey, the labels in the Cayman Islands, and you know what I mean? There's a lot of mystique around that place already. And so we're just kind of like, well, that's why we got to get some actual like legitimate lawyers involved in all this stuff to make sure that we're doing something, legit. I mean, I think everybody would look at that situation like, yeah, this is really what you think, you know what I mean? So, but we did it. And a month later, they were flying us down to Cayman, and we recorded all the songs down there with Tom Birkland producing, Josh Gilbert, former As I Lay Dying, now in Spirit Box, Joseph McQueen, who's done so many mixes for so many bands out there. Bullet for My Valentine, Newberry Tomorrow, that's out there right now. I mean, the guy kills it. His sound is awesome. So we knew that their management signed off on them going down to the Cayman Islands. So we were just like, I guess we should go too, you know? And then we found out as we went down there, everyone was sort of going in blind, like, what are we walking into? You know what I mean? But it was, once we got there and we saw the facility and this beautiful estate that we were staying at, we were all just like, what is this? Like, it was so unique and so humbling and so cool, and like really just a once in a lifetime. I mean, I'm not used to any of that kind. I've never, you know, full disclaimer, I've never left the United States. So I was like, oh wow, like this is pretty crazy. But yeah, we got down there and just the vibe of it all and where we were recording and the people we were involved with. And, you know, we rolled down there already with like, what is it, Mike and Chris, like 7 or 8 skeletons of songs already. And then, yeah.
Wow.
And so, you know, that's the full lead up to when we were down there, you know? So I guess that's sort of the backstory of where we got to where we are now, you know?
Oh, absolutely. So. Wow.
Another thing too is that I actually got to go snorkeling every day from cause the studio, it was at 11 to 7 every day. And so I'd get up early and I'd go out in the ocean, just walk right down the stairs into the ocean, go snorkeling, and then come back in, take a shower, eat breakfast, fucking studio it. It was fucking awesome.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you know, typical things. Typical things for when you're recording an album. I mean, that happens for everyone.
Yeah, a lot of bathing suits, you know.
I was gonna say, like, we gotta like almost edit all of that out, because these DIY bands are gonna have such high expectations for like their first record deal, right?
We won't mention the personal chef then that curated everyone's dietary restrictions.
Oh my God, yeah, of course, right?
I have a feeling that you're not kidding about that either.
We're not. We got a personal chef out there. Yep,
Shout out to Chef Jen.
I'm telling you, it was the strangest but coolest just turn of events, and like it couldn't have been a better situation. And we're still with Iron Shore, and they're 100% an amazing label, and they take care of the people that are on it. They're great to work with, and like it's just one of those serendipitous things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also, too, when we got there, I mean, this was in October of 2021. So COVID was still a thing, and especially on that island, there's a lot of tourism and stuff, and for their income, and they're very strict. So we had to be on essentially like a house arrest lockdown for the first, I think it was 7 days or 10 days. Which ended up being fine, even though we were on this beautiful island. It's like we're in the studio every day working. You know what I mean? I think I had like 2 days off there the whole time. I think so. We were definitely, you know.
But still, I mean, you got to snorkel every morning, so
it didn't suck.
Being quarantined in a big estate with a studio and being forced to write music every day, we were like, oh well, you know, there's worse ways. I mean, people had a rough time during quarantine, but we had to do. I mean, we got to make music out of it, so we're blessed in that part. So,
well, you were also doing what. I think, and you know, there's obviously a timeline with the pandemic. Industry shuts down. Everyone doesn't really know how to react through 2020. And then bands start to pick up, especially like mid to late 21. We're like, oh, wait, hold on. Let's get back on our feet and get to work, right? There are a lot of bands, you know, I should say a lot of younger bands did not actually take advantage of that as much as maybe they could have. But the bands that are here now that we're obviously seeing, like you guys, with massive potential beyond what you already have, you know, you guys were grinding through that time. Like you took advantage of, hey, we can't really do anything else. Obviously, no shows. And for you guys being a new band, no shows was okay. But, you know, you said, hey, let's take advantage of that moment. And I think that really speaks a lot to, you know, who you guys are already.
I have a hot take about this too, though. I feel like, and I heard this from multiple guys and different bands too, of all like, you know, sizes, that they felt like once the pandemic hit, because you couldn't really do anything else, you know, most of these guys, they felt like even newer bands coming out and their own bands themselves, like the quality of the writing just increased, because all you could do was focus on what you were writing with, and you didn't have to be like, we have to crank this album out so that we can get on the road now, and, you know, fuck it, whatever comes out of it came out of it, and that's it. So a lot of like the overall like just quality of the writing and the songs just came out way stronger during that era, during that, 2019, 2020 kind of void that was those 2 years,
I think it's fueled. I think it's fueled a lot by probably the energy of the world at that point too. You know what I mean? Like all you had was time. You could definitely make sure the track was exactly what you wanted, and depending on what kind of music you were writing, people were fucking angry and pissed, and like there's a lot of emotion and fear. I mean, people were scared. Like there's all like unfortunately it was a terrible time, but I mean, coming out of those types of emotions is the sauce for making music. You know what I mean? So there was a lot to write about for people. So yeah, it was a mixed bag, but ultimately a pretty good one for creativity, I think. So
yeah, pain, man. Pain breeds crazy emotions in music.
Yeah. It was I was actually about to say exactly that, because it was I think 2016 or 2017, Sum 41. Just the album that kind of comes to my head is their 13 Voices album. And, obviously 2016 was the election there. And it's just everything. Again, there's a little bit of turmoil, a little bit of passion, a little bit of emotion, everything clashing. And then 2020 obviously is charged with another election, not to make any of this political, but like just, COVID.
Well, it's part of it too, but
it's just a collective, everyone, what people are feeling, anxiety and fear,
and such
stress
great albums
politics are always a factor in everything, no matter what, even if you're political or not. I mean, it's still part of everybody's life,
Yeah, exactly. Whatever issues are relevant to you. So yeah, dude, I'm so excited for your new album that is on the way, because that it's got to be like supercharged. I mean, from what we've heard already,
Yeah, it's lyrically for me, it's sort of just the ride, the culmination of what it's been since I left the band that I was previously in with Mike, to all of the things that happened over the pandemic, and personal things and things that I noticed, or my take on the world. And, lyrically, it's coming from what we just talked about, that big stew of all that stuff mixed in, whether it's blatant or it's creatively worded, it still involves all of that stuff, so.
Yeah. Awesome. So hopping in to inject this piece of the show, obviously one of our favorite parts, and why this show was built, was to talk about your inspirations and your influence artists. Kind of what got you into music, or even got you to where you are with Alphamega today. And obviously you sent us over a couple songs, and I really, really am excited to talk about these, because you have picked some legendary artists, some great tracks. I mean, the first track you gave us was Trigger by In Flames, and like In Flames just dropped a banger of an album recently, and it's just
it's great.
Nuts.
It's great.
Yeah. So what specifically, I guess, of Trigger, or that specific song, I guess, and In Flames inspires you guys, and why did you select that piece?
I selected that piece. This is Adam. And I guess I'm going to make this a little bit of a backstory to get us to In Flames. But growing up, it's just myself and my sister, and she's younger than me, and I didn't have any older brothers. And, it's like I didn't have older influences on me, really. And everything that I listened to was whatever was on the rock radio stations, and things like that. And which is great, because, I grew up listening to grunge, and I grew up listening to, that sort of that 90s rock, and, and it wasn't until I moved out of the house in high school, where I moved in with a couple guys in Minneapolis, Minnesota, actually, and the guitar player was for this band, underground metal band, or death metal band, called Anal Blast. And I knew that their style was too much on the end of the spectrum for me, but I had never heard the musicality of it before. You know what I mean? Like metal that was that fast and that technical and all this other kind of stuff. So I was, I told, his name is Nick, shout out to Nick. I was just like, man, is there something that has guitars like this, but vocals like that, you know? And he was like, dude, he's like, I've got the perfect band for you to check out right now. And that was the first thing he ever played me was Reroute to Remain, that album by In Flames. And when I heard Trigger, I was just like, this is fucking it, dude. I'm like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like this guy's voice is fucking aggressive, but he can make it notey, so it's like following the melody, and then the music of it is heavy, but there's melody, and it was just like, this is like, whoa, this is what I've been trying to find. And immediately with that, you know, there were 3 songs I wanted to put on here, but I only picked one, so it's like in succession. And it was Follow the Hollow by Soilwork from Natural Born Chaos from that album. Yep. And then I was like, holy shit, there's actual clean vocals that can go over this stuff too, because Bjorn's the man, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And then,
dude, yeah.
And then another friend of mine out there in the metal scene was just like, yeah, but wait until you hear this. And then it was Boom and A Heartache by Killswitch Engage. And I was just like,
I knew that was coming.
I was like, this is where I need to live. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, once I heard that you could do a lot of clean singing like Howard Jones, you know, shout out to Jesse as well. Like I love, you know, both singers for that band, but I mean, Howard era was when I got introduced to it. So it's just like hearing now what heavy music could involve, and it spoke to me, you know. I was just like, fuck, like this is it. I was like, this is it. So, you know, but Trigger from In Flames is still my favorite band of all time. So then once you figure, then you get the opportunity at that point to find out that they've put out so much stuff before even that album. You know what I mean? And like, I like everything they've ever done. I love their new album. It's starting to give a little bit of a taste of that old In Flames. You know what I mean? But I like all versions. You know. So, but anyways, that's why I picked Trigger. That is my taste of the type of metal that I like, probably to a T. Just that Swedish melodic, you know, metalcore. And
you know, it's funny. It's funny, Adam, because you and I grew up on the same kind of stuff. So I came from that era too, where it was In Flames, your Killswitch, All That Remains. When I started to like discover them, and that whole like slew of bands, and that's when I got into playing guitar myself. You know, that's my primary instrument. Before I started like producing music and all that, my primary instrument has always been the guitar. So that's when I got into it. And I'm like, oh my God, you can do this with a fucking guitar? This is crazy. And then started to learn, you know.
We've drooled about Soilwork on here before.
Yeah. Dude.
Shout out to
Bjorn.
the Dreamshade guys talking about that for a long time. Yeah, it was so good.
Oh, sure. And Dreamshade, I saw that you guys interviewed those guys too. Yeah. Like that was another band, you know, what is it? The Gift of Life, that album or whatever. Yeah. So
you were an OG.
But because I'm looking for those kinds of bands all the time. You know what I mean? But and Dreamshade, are they from Germany?
No.
Are they
Switzerland?
They're also from Switzerland too. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, whatever it is, whatever's in the water out there, you know, I mean, it's just like they all got it in them. So, but yeah, Dreamshade's sick too. So
we were talking about. Right, yeah, it's crazy. Hey, we were talking about how like we were talking about Bjorn because one of their songs too was also a Soilwork song, and we were talking about how like they have such like pop sensibilities with their singing.
Oh yeah,
and you know what I mean. And then really, that's kind of what. So a lot of people equate like metalcore, like this isn't my take on it, right? A lot of people equate like the old school metalcore to like aggressive rock singing over metal riffs. I think it's pop singing over metal riffs, but I mean whatever. You know?
Yeah, I mean, and you know, I agree with the pop sensibilities being in there, and you know, depending on what your writing attack is for that kind of stuff, there's a lot of pop structuring for those types of songs too. You know what I mean? So 100%. It's like you've got the catchy, screaming or not, you've got pop, you know, timing, you've got pop riffs and, you know, things like that to fall into a certain category, which is why I think a lot of that stuff is as broadly popular as what it is because it has this instant, just, you know, you recognize it. You recognize that this song is going to be something that you can just do this to the whole time. You know what I mean? So there's a plot to that, you know, but it all works for me.
Dude,
like
I think we can both agree on that for sure. So this brings me into a perfect segue into something else that I've been wondering. So like, can you talk about like how your songwriting process is? Like, how does it start? You know, I know that your material is fairly diverse, and you stated that creative freedom is quite important to you guys. You know, so you know, what's the spark for you guys to sit down and say, "Hey, shit, I have an idea. Let's roll with this." Like, how does that process work for you, dudes?
I think it's, I don't think there's a one size fits all approach. I think it can be Adam with an acoustic guitar and chords and a melody. It could be me figuring out some riffs. It could be a combination of stuff. Chrissy might have an idea for a groove or for even, I mean, he mouths me guitar riffs. I'm like, okay, let me figure this out real quick. So if there's inspiration, we'll figure out a way, I guess, to document it and to kind of start building from there. But I don't know, creativity and inspiration is a weird kind of a fleeting thing that it's, if you tap into it and you can grab it, then you can get it. But there's not really a way to access it in my experience, like when I need to. There's not really a switch that you just flip on and like, okay, this is how I'm going to get an idea. It just kind of, you know, you could be washing the dishes, driving around, or you could sit with an instrument and actively be trying to write something. But it's kind of mysterious, you know?
I've never actually heard someone articulate that. But
Yeah,
that's precisely it. Like, I'm sitting here like, wait a second. No shit. Like,
actually,
it's not just
that's
me.
actually
Like,
fucking brilliant.
yeah.
It's like the ideas exist somewhere in the ether, and sometimes you're lucky enough to like grab one and call it your own. But you know, I don't think we have a way of like there's one Alphamega method. The only thing that everything gets ran through our collective filter. So everyone needs to sign off on it. There needs to be a piece of everyone in every piece of music. Whether whoever started the idea doesn't matter. It's going to go through all of us at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
Well,
very important that you know, that everybody's essence is still in the songs rather than it sounding too one-sided. I mean, I can tell from listening to you guys' music that they all have like a collective feel to them as well. It's something I also cannot explain. It's just from listening, I could be like, oh, okay, I can see the tying factors, and there's a lot of like from song to song in the guitar riffing and the drumming and the singing. Obviously, you know, there's things that are now after meeting you guys that are quite unique to you guys. So that's a really cool thing to see.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those things that I think elevates your music to the next level because there is that layer. You know, I'm going to say anyone can write a song, but if you know, there's levels of tiers of quality of that song, and to have three collective minds on something, that really brings it to another level.
More unique, I think, in a good way.
Yeah, and we all come from different musical backgrounds and styles, and it's like a Venn diagram. There's like the stuff we all kind of agree upon, like, yeah, we love these bands. But then there's the stuff beyond that it's more like one-sided to each person. That's when like those are the ingredients of the stew that come in and make it interesting, because I might not think of a Goo Goo Dolls tuning that Adam might come up with, and I might fight him on it. But I don't want to tune my guitar that way.
I will do
Adam might
that.
not think of the right-
Nobody tunes their guitars the way I tune my guitars, other than maybe John Resnick. So
Yeah.
And Adam might not think of the right BPM, but we'll figure it out.
just you know, it's a running truthful inside joke, and it's not really a joke, it's the truth. But it's like I write everything on the acoustic, no matter what I bring to the table, and everybody's always just like, that is really good. If only it was 5 BPM faster than what it is right now. So everything I write, I'm just like, guys, just imagine this 5 BPM faster. You know,
everything's like couch tempo. You know what I mean? He's on the couch.
Yeah, and then it's so funny because it's happened so many times where we've literally, you know, we've recorded the riff or something like that, and then bumped it up by 5 BPM just for listening purposes, and they're like, yeah, that's it. That's where it needs to be. So.
Let me say, you know, as a guitar player and collaborator with these guys, that's one of my favorite things, is to have a song start as a song, chords and melody. Like you can dress it up. It could be country, it could be pop, it could be metal. As long as the foundation is there of the chords and melody, then you have a song, you have something to work with. Versus trying to reverse engineer some crazy instrumental piece of music. How are we going to put the vocals in here and stuff? And sometimes we try to do it that way too. But I love Adam's approach because it's the most important stuff is there. And then you kind of work your way out, and how do you expand upon that? You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
And how do you play it like a guitar player like Mike would play it? You know?
Well, I mean, Adam, you're just setting up for the next phase of Alphamega. You know, you can do an acoustic like VIP show, or you know, like something beforehand. You know that you're already just building out the network. We know.
Yeah.
There's a question for you, Chrissy. Do you have to ever deal with like? I'm a guitar player, so I try to program drums sometimes when I'm writing demos, and oh my god, my drummer friends are like, dude, what are you doing?
Right.
You know what I mean, you ever have to deal with that?
No. You know what?
Oh my god.
Mike is actually really good at programming drums. Here's one thing, like he'll send over a song that already is formatted and it has like the drums on there, and he'll be like, you know, check this out. What do you guys think? So it's like everything that he sends is actually pretty spot on of how, you know, it should be in the sense of, you know, what I can do. He and I, it's funny because he and I kind of have the same drum style in a sense. And so the way he programs, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, that's actually how I would do it, you know? And so I've never come across that with Mike in the sense of when he's drum programming, I'm like, no, let's change that. I don't think I have, or have I don't think I have. Maybe there's been like one thing that I've had. Maybe I was just like, oh, let's try halftime or something, you know, but it's not that big.
Yeah, I think arrangement tweaks maybe, but I try not to get too inhuman with it. And that's because I've been doing it for a while now, and I probably definitely started off where velocity, everything's 127, and you have to be an octopus to play it. And I think I've started to learn where a real drummer ends and a machine begins, you know?
Right.
So I tried, and I also try to serve the song as much as possible too, in that way. But yeah, luckily him and I are kind of on the same wavelength with that stuff. So I think if we change anything, I don't get offended. You know, it's whatever's better for the song and for the part. So sometimes, like you said, we might want to go from, you know, to a halftime or a double time, but
Yeah, no, I mean, I ask because, you know, once again, like, I have a lot of drummer friends, and when I'm, like, writing a demo for a band or for myself or whatnot, it's not even the velocity thing, dude. It's just keeping, like, your right over left hand kind of flow going. Sometimes I tend to just completely fuck that up, and it sounds hilarious. It's like, yeah, sure, you could do that on the drums, but why? You didn't need to do that. Kind of
you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, dude.
I think there was one song we had on the first sessions of recordings that Mike did have like three different hand parts and then feet parts that went on. So it was like it took 5 limbs to do it or something like that. So there was one thing that happened like that, and I was like, dude, this isn't right, you know? I was like, there's no way you can possibly do that or something like that. So there was one thing back in the day, but since then it's been great. He's amazing.
I've learned
Well,
from
there
that.
you go. He vouched for you.
No, and it's funny too. I feel bad for drummers this day and age because a lot of them kind of, you know, sometimes they miss out entirely on the recording process. You know, and even the writing, and it's tough. They're a loud instrument, and it's tough to kind of like, you know, with technology now this day and age, to be able to send demos back and forth. Like, you can't always expect drummers to like, let me go in my studio and mic up 27 mics and, you know, send you over this idea. So utilizing technology is a tool for efficiency for us, just to communicate the creative stuff. But at the end of the day, you know, we always do real drums in the studio. And also, I just can't help myself when I'm writing, because I think in terms of like the finished product. So I already it's going to be very rare that I'm going to send these guys just the guitar riff like by itself naked, because the guitar and drums like directly interact for me. You know, like the Lars and James or Zeppelin, like it's on my list, like Jimmy Page and John Bonham, and like those interactions, like to me are the riff. It's the rhythm and the guitar like working together to make you bang your head or bop or whatever. So I just can't help myself. Part of my idea, like drums are included. Sorry.
Yeah.
We don't have to use it, but I have to like get that out.
Right. No, for sure, and I'm sure Chrissy doesn't mind. I mean, you guys are absolute pros, so you guys get it. You know exactly how it is. It was just like a funny thing because we were talking about like writing and stuff and how those songs are written, and Adam was talking about the 5 BPM faster. I started to think of my drummer friends and like how I mess with them sometimes, and I'll write like octopus fills just for fun, just to fuck with them, and it's hilarious, dude.
Yeah.
But back in the days, I didn't know the difference, like 10 years ago. So it's like, oh well, shit, dude. Now I know right over left,
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And
But,
I mean, for a lot of, younger upcoming bands, knowing that is a first step to being a functional band too.
Actually, yeah.
Whether it's writing with drums in mind or let alone any other part in mind and not just you, doodling on your guitar, alone, if you're thinking of the cohesive picture, you're already leagues ahead of many other people,
Absolutely.
And that's again, everything you're saying is going back to, this is why Alphamega is where you are right now.
Yeah, you're serving the song with the writing and all that stuff. I think it's very important for younger bands to understand too, especially those that are trying to cut demos, like little pre-pros and all that stuff before they get in the studio and all that, or just just for writing purposes. Like that's the thing they really need to understand, and I'm glad you conveyed that point. Kind of like Adam was saying, how you need to write. Well, not you need to write, but like how he likes to write with an acoustic guitar. I'm a big believer that if your song doesn't flow with just an acoustic and a voice, it's not really that great. I'm a big believer in that. There's some exceptions.
Or a piano. It's like that's all you need.
Yes.
And
yes.
If you can't do that, it's not a song.
Thank
Doesn't
you.
mean it's not a piece of music.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But I mean, a lot of metal songs you can't recreate with that, but that's a different thing. That's more of a composition, in my opinion. A lot of stuff on maybe Injustice for All or something like might not work on an acoustic. Still sick as fuck. But in terms of like songwriting, I think that's like an important foundation.
Agreed.
For the type of metal and hard rock that I like, we were talking on it before, but still to have those pop sensibilities to it and stuff like that, like strip it down with an acoustic guitar or piano, and if it sounds good at the most stripped down part, you're on your way to writing a song. You know what I mean? As you start to add more parts to it, but it all depends on what you're writing. But like that's the realm I write in. I want those catchy, epic, big choruses and all that kind of stuff. And like, if you can get that to sound good, stripped down, you know what I mean? That's why I like to start at those points, because that's just where I write from, so.
Oh, I agree. I think it's a great foundation, and not to sound like a broken record, that's, there's some exceptions, but that's how I also see things the same way as you guys. So that's awesome.
Well, let's strip down the influences a little more. And tie in there. So the second song submitted, and my guess, just from conversation, this is Chrissy's, is Territory by Sepultura.
That's me, but
All right.
So a little bit about that is that so I'm going to do like what Adam did. I got to take you back a little bit and then bring you into the song.
I love this.
So that record came out in 1993, and I think I believe I had kind of been fiddling with drums, taking drum lessons. I hadn't got a drum set yet. And I was like, well, what the heck is this, And so I was walking through Kmart one day, and you know how Kmart used to have those listening music machines? I don't know
Yeah.
guys are, but you'd go in there, have like 30-second clips of videos. I'd find Foo Fighters on there. There was a bunch of other things on there too. So anyways, I clicked on this button of Sepultura, and it was Territory. And all of a sudden, the 30-second clip was the clip where they were in the water with mud all over them. And it was just brutality. And I was like, what is this? And so I was with my dad, and I was like, Dad, I need you to buy me this CD right now. And so that was the fourth CD I had ever owned. And anyways, moving on from that, I stopped listening to it. I got, after a while, whatever, I got into drums, and I was playing along to music and just, just learning and doing all kinds of stuff. And then I go to a show, and it's my first show, I think, when I was like 15 or 16 or something like that, at this venue called Chain Reaction in Anaheim.
Oh, yeah.
And I see this drummer there, And all of a sudden he's got like, not all of a sudden, he had them the whole time, but I noticed it. He had one kick drum, and then over here, he was like doing something fast. I'm like, what is that? How is he doing that with one foot? Anyways, it ended up being a double bass pedal. And so I was like, holy God, what is that? And I was like, I need to get one of those. So I go home. The next day, I tell my dad, all right, I'm going. And I had a car at this time, so I was 16. I go to Sam Ash, and I roll over to Sam Ash. I go get a freaking double bass drum pedal. I come back and practice for 6 months on it. And during that time, I revisited for some reason the Sepultura, right? And I was like, what? I was like, holy crap. That is how I thought this snare drum was going so fast, but it's actually the feet going on. And so, in all these tribal things and the double bass pedal, because I didn't have a double bass pedal, I didn't learn with the double bass pedal at the beginning. I just had a single pedal. And so that for me is what brought me into the double bass territory of music. And from ever since then, it was like I started getting into more of the hardcore and all the double bass and just wanting to really focus on that kind of stuff. So, just the drums too, the tribal beats, everything like that, from the bongos and congos and the timbales that they have in there. It just like the whole drum sound feel, it was just more than drums. It was like drums and other percussion instruments. And so that really brought a new meaning to drums for me as well. And so that's where I'm at with War for Territory, and that whole record. To me, there's a lot of double bass, and I went through and I was just like, oh my God. I don't know how long it took me. It probably took me about 8 months at that time because I was still learning, but I learned the whole record from front to back. And
wow,
that's my story with Sepultura Territory. It's all about that double bass, and it got me into it.
I mean, that's super influential and innovative to your playing now, I'm assuming. So
yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
And Kmart,
yeah,
right?
Shout out to Kmart listening stations. You know what I mean?
Dude, I remember those.
I mean,
they were at Walmart, they were at Best Buy, like all they had the headphones that you could just pop on, and
right here. Yeah.
Put it on, just like
hit
exactly.
Your button and yeah. Oh man, the days. I literally was like cleaning the other day, and between my MP3 player and my CDs that I still have, I'm like, man, I don't even have a CD drive in my laptop right now. What the like?
I know.
And this was what, 10 years ago? Not even. Come on.
Heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, dude. Just like when FYE went down, at least in my area.
Yep.
I
was out of a job immediately.
I had to get this external CD so I can still burn CDs onto import them into my computer.
I mean, exactly. Like nobody, even thinking back to, my first cell phone, you always recorded like, oh, the radio's playing. DJ, don't say a word. This song's coming on. I'm going to record my ringtone. Don't or the mixtape, with the cassette, like that type of thing. It's always like, man, and Sepultura got you in Kmart, no less. Nobody knows what Kmart is.
No,
Kmart is.
Shout out to Kmart for even having Sepultura like on a listening station. You know
Honestly,
what I mean?
Yeah.
Dude, I was thinking the same thing just now.
Yeah.
So another quick piece of that story real quick is that right before then, I was into rap, right? And so I would listen. I was listening to Criss Cross and Another Bad Creation and like Digital Underground and stuff like that, right? So anyways, I was with my buddy and my dad, right? We're walking through there. And so I clicked one of them and I was like, oh, Escape, that song, take off your shoes and relax your feet, party on down to the Escape beat, just kick it. Well, that was a 30-second clip on there too, right? And so I was like, oh, I gotta have this, Dad. And my buddy goes like this, don't let him get that shit. Get him this other one, And so, and so I got Sepultura that day instead of Escape.
And the rest is history.
Shout out to your buddy.
Thank you, friend.
Yeah, honestly, wow, that's amazing. And I love the obviously the personal aspects to that, because it takes us, at least our core right here, it takes us back to, man, those were some good days of discovering music.
Yeah, I say right. I mean, that was that was life. Like for me, remember music used to come out on Tuesdays, you know, and like that's all I did was save up my money during the week from whatever stupid little like yard mowing job I had or whatever it was. Shout out to having a job at like 10 years old, 12 years old these days. Doesn't happen. And so I would save up that money and just every Tuesday go in there and just buy music and buy music and buy music. And it's just like, there was something special about that experience, you know, that I think we're probably all from that same generation where it's like, there was something magical about that. You know what I mean? Just going in and discovering new music by actually purchasing it and going home. And a lot of times you'd buy something for a single and the rest of it would be a total shitbird, but it's just like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, also,
a few times.
that too, it's like you would go and sometimes it would just be the cover art that would appeal to you or whatever. And then you get it and you're stuck with this record. Like you have to wait another few weeks to buy a new one. And so you're just listening to this thing on repeat. And that's how you know, for me at least, like a lot of my favorite records and favorite artists were because of that. I was confined to only listen to that. And then you fall in love with it. But, you know, nowadays you can, I don't like this, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. You know what I mean? And I think there was, you know, we came up in a time where we kind of just had to live with it and a little bit longer. You know what I mean? And therefore maybe appreciate it, hopefully.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Just a little take on this one too. I used to kind of do the same thing where I would buy an album, but instead of the songs like one being good and the rest were just not great, I would run into a different kind of problem where 2 or 3 of the singles on that record, you know, I loved them. That's the reason I bought it. But then the other ones, even though the songs were good, sonically it just sounded like shit. I don't know why. And it just killed me, man. Like that, I knew right then and there. I was like, I'm done. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Your ears were meant for something more. Yeah, mine was the catalog, and it would spiral back to, oh, this one looks cool. Let's order it, and then it takes a couple weeks for it, you know, show up in your mailbox, and you're like, oh,
what are the ones that was like a penny or whatever? And
the CD ware or whatever. You spend a penny, get 3,000 CDs, and like, and then you're
these guys
tied
know.
in forever.
I never understood that business model. Where's the money coming in for these guys?
I think it's because it was so difficult to cancel that they just kept like sending you CDs at regular.
They got you for
price,
life at that point.
Regular price. At that point, there's no online, so if they don't want to pick up their fucking phone, it's not canceled. You know what I mean?
Write the letter even. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, right.
I feel like it was
yeah.
the PO box you had to respond to all the time.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, nostalgia lane. Sorry.
Right.
I love
It's
it.
the best.
I mean that's what makes, you know, especially with a lot of the artists, you know, it's not like I'm necessarily talking to like Motley Crue or anything over here who's a little before that even, you know, it's the same generation and we all share that kind of, you know, however many pieces it took to get us into music, you know, we're all still here. And I think that's just what makes music so cool because it's whatever taste it was, you know, let's say, you know, I was listening to a Switchfoot album because my buddy burnt me a single or two. It's like, you know, that defined a taste that launched me X direction. And for you guys, it's this. So
yeah. And plus it's a soundtrack to an important piece of your life, you know, those early childhood memories, friendships, and doing things that is a soundtrack associated with it. Even if you maybe wouldn't get into that band now, if you heard them for the first time, they were kind of essential to that growth, you know, going through life and discovering new stuff with friends and peers and whatnot, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Agreed.
So you guys kind of bouncing back into your release cycles here. I mentioned earlier, you've been very steady. You've been just dropping singles, and really promoting very well. I mean, at least I've been following you guys. Beyond that, I don't know if you've been pushing ads. I'm sure you have and stuff. But, you know, it explains a lot why you're blowing up because of the quality that we've mentioned and talked about. We've heard from guests that we've talked to before that, you know, as a new project, you kind of have to identify your brand or your style, right? And you also have to be passionate about your music that you want to make and then be consistent. So like you're checking all those boxes, I would say. And obviously the next step is live shows. Like you said, you started playing over the past year. What do you have in the plans for that? Or, you know, what kind of progress is being built to, you know, bigger and better things for getting out there and absolutely crushing it live?
Yeah, so we have our our debut full-length record called Regeneration Machine is going to be released May 26th. And in tandem with that, we're announcing a tour. We're going to be supporting Halocene. So that starts May 31st, I believe is the first date in Atlanta, Georgia. And then that goes to June 15th. There's going to be some additional dates we'll be announcing soon. We're just finalizing a couple other things. But yeah, we're really stoked and grateful and honored to be supporting them and get out into some new places we haven't played yet, some new markets, and hopefully meet some great people and make some fans and play some rock shows.
Yeah.
We spent last year, like you said, playing as many shows as we could that made sense. And, you know, I think with everything that's going on with the band and what we have and what we built over the last year and stuff, like we're a tour ready machine, and we just want to be out there on the road. And I know that it's a difficult time to tour and all that other kind of stuff, but you know, we're starting at a level where we can suck it up and get out there on some tours where we're maybe not making as much money as these people that's saying it's hard to tour out there. You know what I mean? Like, we just want to go and build the band on the ground the old school way that you build a band, is by getting it in front of people and letting people see what you're doing. And I still believe that that's the best way to do it. You know what I mean? Like, that, as a musician, I mean, you can only release stuff in the digital world for so long before you feel like a little bit of the soul of your music, like the part of you that like needs that live interaction and that live feel, starts to go away. And like, that's the one thing that I've always just, I want that to be at the top of what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Being on the road and touring and connecting with people and stuff is the most important thing to me about why I play music, you know? So it's just like, we're ready to go. And we're super thankful for Halocene for taking us out and supporting them on this run coming up. It's going to be awesome. We're playing a bunch of markets that we as Alphamega have not played before as a band. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it'll be really cool. So we're looking forward to that. We're ready to go.
I think that's
sick.
great.
A road ready machine.
You do, yeah. And you know, and I also do agree with you on what you said just now, which is, you know, you're a rock band, dude, right? You guys are an active rock band. It's about the live show for rock, I think, right?
Sure.
Absolutely.
I think it's that energy. It's about that. I mean, sure, you got to be big and present on social media. You got to drop your songs. You got to get your numbers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you're absolutely right. If that's all that you do and you're not really playing live, then the hell are you? You know?
Yeah.
You can only watch so many TikTok videos until you want to see the band live, you know? Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a
I think
what
we
a
all grew up
necessary
with
fucking
that
evil. Oh
mentality.
God.
It's like, what did we get into this for? To not play live.
Man.
Doing a little dance behind my camera over here, listening to my music. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Well, I think for a lot of us, that's what got us into it. I remember for me, like my first show was kind of grew up on punk and stuff. And I went in my first mosh pit when I was 12. And I was going to shows every weekend until I was like 18 or 19 or whatever after that. And that's just what I loved. And that's what got me into wanting to be the guy on the stage, because of being the kid in the audience and looking up to someone and being like, this is awesome. I want to do that. You know what I mean? And so that's still, all these years later, it's still what we want to be doing. I love being in the studio too and being creative, but that's something, you know, maybe in 5 years you can see the AI versions of us tour. But for now, we're excited to get in front of people in real life, you know?
From your personal experiences, right? You know, any advice that you can share with like up and coming bands trying to be, you know, your guys' level? I know that it's always like a ladder you're trying to always climb. So no matter where you are, you're always trying to go higher. But for somebody who's maybe trying to get to your guys' stature, right? You know, any advice you can give to them about becoming like a touring act and taking their show on the road and stuff like that? I know you said, Adam, earlier something about playing shows that made sense. If you could elaborate on that too.
Sure. You know, there's a lot of thoughts, right, on like playing as many shows as possible and just doing, you know, playing whatever comes your way and doing all that kind of stuff. And while I agree to that in a sense, if you're continually doing the hamster wheel of like the same area, the same venues, the same places and whatnot and stuff like that, depending on what your aspirations are, like you're just sort of continually spinning this wheel where it's like, if you are doing all that stuff and you don't see more people showing up to the shows, you don't see anything really increasing. I mean, it's sort of a little bit of a form of insanity. Like you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And that stuff isn't happening. And that's not even saying that your music is bad or that you're not a good band, but it's like, you've gotta, there's so much sacrifice and there's so much money and stuff like that, like involved in it, if you really want to push it to another level, where you've got to just be prepared to be like, we're going to be spending some time and money and a lot of this stuff to be able to get it to this next level, and playing at the same freaking place over and over again with no results happening is ridiculous. It's like, you've got to do what you can do to make sure that your fucking recordings are good, that you're spending the money to work with, you know, somebody that's actually going to give you a product that people are going to be engaging in when they listen to it, you know. And it's trust me, it's easier said than fucking done, because we've all come from bands where you don't have, you know, we don't have money, you know what I mean? But it's just like,
right.
We pooled the money that we did have. We all have day jobs. We all, you know, it's just like, we have families. We have all this stuff that gets kind of put to the secondary tier when it comes to when we're building our dreams, because you've got to do that kind of work and you've got to put in that kind of energy to this kind of stuff. And that's really what I would want to get across to bands and stuff like that, is like, just be prepared to make those type. If you can't be honest with yourself and think, like, I can't make these kind of sacrifices, I'm not going to be able to do that, there's nothing wrong with that, but you're getting into the wrong game. Because if you don't want to be anything more than a weekend warrior, then there you go. That's it. You get your aggression out playing that one show, and you go back to your 9 to 5 and you do all that kind of stuff. But it's just like, if you want to go beyond that, you've got to be ready to put in everything and more, even things that you don't have, you're still going to be putting into it, because that is the most important thing. Is if music is the most important thing to you, then you fucking act like it. You know what I mean? And you just got to make moves that show that it's hurting me behind the scenes. You wouldn't know it, but this is making a progression for my band and for the music. So it's just like, you go and you play shows that make sense, but you get out of the especially if you're just playing the same place over and over again without anything. That doesn't mean that your music is bad. It just means that it's not right for wherever you are. So get on the road, go make things happen, set up your own tours. It's very difficult to reach out to clubs and try to get responses and all that other kind of stuff. But like, you put in the work to finally get that one response where somebody's going to take you somewhere else. And man, it's just like, you get that opportunity and you go play for new people. And, you know, it's that sacrifice and time and energy and money, and, you know, having
also
kind of
too, like, absence makes the heart grow fonder, you know. If people know that they're going to see you, they can see you next week because you're going to be here next week and the week after. Why are they going to go to any of those shows? You know what I mean? You want to set up the expectation that, like, I better see them now because I don't know when they're going to come back. Right. You know, build value for yourself, you know? And then on the music front, I would say, just at the end of the day, like, whatever art you're creating, you need to believe in it 1000%, and you need to love it first. For me personally, like, writing music it starts selfishly. I do it for me. I need to love it. It's a process that is fulfilling to me, just as a creative person. And then after a certain point, you work hard to it becoming something that you can present to the world, and then it's theirs and it's no longer yours, really. But you need to, especially if a song hits, you're going to be playing that song a lot. You better like it. You know what I mean? So make sure you're staying true to yourself as an artist first, and the music that you want to do is something that you're proud to wear on your sleeve and be like, this is what I've created and I'm proud of it. And then go from there. You know what I mean? Don't try and write for radio, or try and write because you think people are going to respond a certain way. If you're not responding that way, you're already, like, shot yourself in the foot, you know?
That's Mike's 100% right on that too. Like, this band, is a big believer in just like ourselves and authenticity, and just believing in what we're making first before we present it to anybody else, you know. And that's where a lot of these like all these songs come from, the fact that we believe in it, and it's real shit that we're writing about and real emotion going into everything that we're doing, you know. So Mike's right. If it's not good for us at first, then it just doesn't even exist after that, you know. So
Imagine how much Nickelback hates Photograph.
Oh my god.
I'm pretty sure they don't hate it.
No, I don't.
I'm pretty sure it bought them all houses.
And tour buses, you know.
No, but yeah, totally, exactly. I mean,
yeah, if you don't like it, good God, saying it
doesn't it?
goes
If
viral on
if it
TikTok
connects with people, you know, then you're stuck with it for your whole career.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh man.
So I've got one small question, kind of piggybacking off what we were talking about. This is for all three of you guys. So I know that you said something really, really awesome just now about how, like, you know, if music's really what you want to do, then like fucking act like it, right? So like work hard, you know, bust your ass, get it done, take the necessary steps to be able to get on the road and all this other stuff. Now, is that something that, for example, you guys are looking for in younger bands when you guys get to a way higher stature, which I'm sure you will, I have no doubt in my mind, you know? You guys are absolutely just destroying like terrestrial radio, like you're way on top, and you're looking for a band to take on tour with you. Is that something you guys are looking for in a band? Like a younger band wanting to go on tour with you guys?
Sure, yeah, I'd say that I'd like to see a band out there. I mean, even if they're brand new and they haven't toured, I'd like to see them try to get a tour under their belt first and see if they can get out and handle the road themselves, and then grab them and snatch them up and introduce them in front of our audience instead of just giving them a free ride right off the bat. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where
prove how much you value your own project first. Let's see you put that on the line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for the time that you guys have invested in projects over the years, you know, it's interesting to probably finally be in that position of like, yeah, you know, that was me 10, 12, 15 years ago, whatever, with my first band. And I just wanted to be picked up by even a band of your size and go on tour. But you now know, like, after the experience of, yeah, I got to get out there, I got to go. And so for DIYs, it's exactly that. Yeah. Prove yourself. And, you know, nothing is free. If you love it in this industry, nothing is really free.
Yeah.
Right.
Love it. That's great. That's great
awesome
to hear. And I know like a lot of our listeners who are all in up and coming bands are gonna love hearing that, you know?
Yeah.
Basically, you know, get your shit together.
So basically
yourself.
I'm going to market this whole podcast as a raffle to get on tour to open for you guys.
Yeah.
There you go.
Perfect.
Yeah. I don't know who's opening it, if you guys are opening with Halocene or not, but you know, it's going to be someone like slipped in for 15 minutes before you. That's all.
Right. Yeah.
But you know, like there's the old adage, you know, success is preparation meets opportunity. And what you're doing by grinding all these things is you're creating the preparation, so when there is an opportunity, you truly are prepared and you can jump on it. You know, I think when I was younger, I thought I was ready, and hindsight being what it is, 2020, I probably wasn't for some of the things that I wanted back then. I still had more learning and growing to do, you know, but you just stay the course, and things will eventually happen. There is some luck involved for sure. There's a wild card of luck that every successful person across any business has an element of that's helped their success.
Yeah.
But that's not to take away from the how important hard work is either, because that can be squandered if you have the opportunity, the lucky opportunity, and you haven't done the prep work. It's not really going to be of much value to you, you know?
Of course.
Yeah, that's the old saying of, you know, somebody can help you get in the door, but you got to prove it that you belong to be in the room. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's still an additional step to that, where it's just like somebody can get you there, but if you're not ready when you're there, you know, there's your opportunity gone. So
yeah, and it's, you know, you have to prepare yourself for when opportunity is presented to you. You have to be exactly what you said, ready for when someone does offer you that ticket. Hey, Okay, you've been grinding. We've seen that. You know.
That's
Definitely.
a brilliant answer. That's a brilliant answer. It's just a lot of like at least back in the days when I was in the band circuit too, like a lot of naive mentalities, even from myself, you know, like all we need is just the one guy or gal to get us in there, and that's all we need. But it's like, well, have you done your prep work? Are you actually ready? You know what I mean?
Or feeling like you deserve it. You
Yeah.
know?
Oh my God. Yeah. The entitlement.
I'm a huge advocate of failing and pain and suffering are essential.
Yeah.
Understanding and digging deep to get to where you actually want to be. And so I think to have it handed to you when you don't have quite enough experience can be a detriment.
Yeah. Yeah,
So.
for sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
One more thing I'd like to say too. It's like the advice, giving advice, you know. The advice from my manager would be get your TikTok numbers up. That's that.
All right.
That's what he would say. Hi, Rich.
Oh, the age we live in.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
My.
I mean, it's
Very
it's
evil.
true though.
It is. I mean, as much as we're laughing at it, it's just times have changed, and there's some necessary evils that come along with keeping yourself relevant and building online numbers and all that stuff. And to be honest, depending on what level you want to be at, the people that are in charge of getting into those next places, I mean, they are looking at that stuff. They are basing their judgment of you on all of that bullshit instead of, where they should be looking. But that's nothing that any of us here can control. It's either we adapt and you do what needs to be done to just have that be another thing to help you along the way, or you can be cross your arms guy and keep doing whatever you're doing and hope that that's the way that it is. But it's like,
I remember these people too, they have jobs and they have superiors and they are trying to do their best to look at analytics and make the right choices for their own careers. And back when we were coming up, I mean, I remember going and flyering, going out in front of venues with a disc man. Here's my band. Here's people standing in line with the headphones. It's essentially that. It's just way fucking easier.
Yeah, you can do it for your
getting
couch
on
now.
social media. I mean, it's harder to cut through to people for sure to get noticed, but it's easier. I don't have to drive to LA and stand in line all night and go to Kinko's and make flyers. I could just go post, So it's just a different ballgame. It's the same type of thing. At the end of the day, this is the entertainment industry, and you got to stand out as an entertainer in some way.
Agreed.
So be creative with it. There's so many tools at your disposal now to do, whether it's dancing on TikTok or shaking your booty or whatever,
Soon enough, I'll be on Dear Untitled's TikTok, shaking my booty.
Dear.
Looking forward to it.
Nobody wants to see that. So, pulling back here, and Mike, you had said that No Quarter by Led Zeppelin. You had kind of hinted at that earlier, that was your track. We've been through Adam's and Chrissy's. Tell us about how Led Zeppelin has kind of inspired you. Obviously, I could probably pull a few reasons, but
yeah.
What do you got?
For me, like I mentioned, I grew up on a lot of punk and stuff as a teenager. And before that, I have classical music in my family. My dad played violin. His father was a professional violinist and stuff like that. So I grew up actually listening to film scores, and so my ears are kind of tuned to a certain thing. And after going through punk and then kind of opening up to all of I wanted to study like the greats, the best iconic bands, right? And so I was about 18 or so, and I was driving. It was late at night. I think I was listening to KLOS. Shout out to KLOS radio station here in LA. And the song comes on, and I'm like, wait, I was just starting to get into Zeppelin, but I hadn't heard all of their catalog yet, And I was like, wait, this sounds like Zeppelin, but this is very different. And I just remember being pulled into this atmosphere and this mood that they created, and being really taken away, like, oh, you can be in a rock band and also do this. It doesn't always have to be Marshalls on 10 or the ballad, right? There's still room for other interesting stuff. And what I mentioned earlier about my ears being tuned to a certain thing with film scores is film scores rely on painting an emotional picture and immersing you into a very specific world.
Absolutely.
And that's when it showed me that you can do that in a rock band too. To me, this is like the Masters, Zeppelin, one of the greatest bands, being very, maturing as artists and doing something very sophisticated that's very minimal with the arrangement, how the drums are pulled back on the verses and things are very sparse, but everything there is extremely intentional and every note choice matters. And I always wanted to, aspire to be able to do music like that, little left of what you would expect, take a big swing, and really immerse the listener into this world that you've created. And I think they nailed it on that particular song. And I think you can even hear the beginnings of like a Tool or a Perfect Circle.
Yeah.
I think Perfect Circle may have covered this. I want to see I can hear Maynard like singing it. I'd have to fact check that, but yeah, I don't know. It was just, not to be the contrarian. I saw their list. And so I was like, I'm going to do something a little outside of, a heavy song that you might expect. Although I believe that this is heavy too in its own way, but
yeah, I don't think I would say it's outside because I mean it completes the circle of what everyone has said so far. You all bring the combination to the filter that your music as Alphamega goes through, but you all bring these different backgrounds and dynamic ideas and opinions on what you feel music should do and describe. And I know, at least personally, your guys, what I hear, your guys' stuff rips. It's heavy, it's rock, it's cool, it's like catchy, but it also even lyrically, whether it's meant to do so lyrically only or within the music as well, it tells a story. So you guys are already on the same page of painting that picture. You have emotions in this music. You've done that, and especially actually, I was a sucker for the new video for Eye of Horus, I should say. And I thought it was really cool to see, the story come to life, but the music, that wouldn't have been anywhere without the bass of the music. I can listen to the song and see a picture in my head, and then I go to the music video and I see a picture in my head. So
right.
I think it's not terribly out of place, and correct me if I'm wrong, because it complements everything that we've heard so far.
Yeah, it's another ingredient of the stew. You know what I mean? I think the song's rad, but more so than that, it just made an impact on me as being what's achievable and another avenue within being in a rock band that you could do things like this as well as, rocking hard. You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
It's not all about the, beat down hardcore sound. It's you make an impact there, obviously, and there's plenty of bands that do it, but
there's room for all of it. That's what's fun about this is you can, especially within this band, is we just want to be able to kind of do whatever we want.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And we figure out how to make it work.
You're really doing well with that. That's for sure. So speaking of making it work, you mentioned, and I believe it's Rich, your manager. Is that
manager? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Shout out to Rich.
And shout out to Rich. It ties right in because, can you guys kind of give some insight as to how, obviously I'm assuming he's a great manager or a high quality manager, how that has really kind of helped you along your journey? Because I'm sure you've all been there. You've all been in the unsigned kind of aimless wandering bands at some point in your life. But how has that changed it for you?
I think that just having, a manager at any level of any band is just somebody close to the camp that cares about the music, cares about you, cares about seeing, everybody succeed together, So it's like finding a manager at any level is just, if somebody's willing to go to bat for you and they actually believe in what they're doing, like that is a good person to have in your corner. So Rich was the first person that we interacted with Iron Shore before we even went down to Cayman. He had flown out to LA a few times and we got dinner with him and we got to know each other. So we started to get a feel for who he was as a person. And Rich basically started out more of like the label manager sort of contact for us before he became our official manager. So we really got, before we had a manager at all, we already had Rich on board, really believing in the band, believing in the music and who we were as people. And there did come a time where we were looking for management. I had asked a lot of my friends in even bigger bands and things like that who've managed me before in the past and things, and they're all busy, and I understand that, and they're but it just seemed like it all kept coming back to like, well, why don't we've been working so close, and he's already been working so hard for us. Why don't we just see if Rich just wants to take on full manager positions also? I mean, he's already doing that type of thing. We might as well give him the title. And so we all talked about it, and then the band here, we all talked about it, and we just thought that it was the right move to make. And like Rich, and Rich goes to bat for us. He's our manager, everything else like that. But I mean, Iron Shore's really got a great team of people working for us, so we're very we're lucky in that sense that we have that situation, you know what I mean? But Rich 100% is a great manager, and we're happy to have him now in that role as well. So
yeah.
Also, he wanted to manage us, and I think that meant a lot, that you want someone that wants to be working with you. You know what I mean? Right. You don't want to be the bottom of the Rolodex there getting ignored. You know what I mean? And so we knew that he would go to bat for us and knock on all the doors that he does knock on. And he's a lovely bloke.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's what you need. Even with labels, I think, I've heard some horror stories before of big labels absolving some bands, and just because it could create a competition to one of their top bands, so they just shelve them. Yeah. And you could have just signed to a smaller label who would have gone to bat for you.
Yep.
Right.
And that's what we love about our relationship with Iron Shore. They've been absolutely great. We have total freedom to do whatever we want. They don't give us notes on music. They don't really give us notes on art or any of it. I mean, they might guide us if we ask for guidance or whatever, but we don't feel like we're making a product or doing things that we don't want to be doing, that they're calling the shots. They're just helping steer our ship,
Yeah.
But we're ultimately in control. And it's great. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, man, that's awesome to hear. I mean, again, it's the people who show the effort. I mean, I guess that's kind of a theme that we've mentioned quite a bit, whether it's upcoming artists who want to be on a tour with you, or you guys as an artist wanting to be even on a label, or, a manager wanting to work with you in your camp. It's people who make the additional above and beyond effort that start to make that connections. They build that foundation and say, hey, I'm in this case, very interested in what you guys are doing. I'm as passionate about it as you are. Let's link up. And then obviously it's the discussion, but that's great to hear you're in good hands. I mean, I'm sure from everything I can tell is great.
We wouldn't be here now without their help, and it takes a village,
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the team is very important always.
So important.
Talking about that village, we all laugh and chuckle, but social media, TikTok, all that stuff. As you grow as a band, can you tell us kind of, or give insight where you've been connecting most with your fan base and the community? Because obviously a band really isn't anything without their fans, right? I think we all can agree on that. So I guess what has been working the most, or I guess where do fans communicate with you the most that you've noticed?
Drop in those single flame emojis, man, in people's comment sections. That's no, I'm just kidding.
Not a bad
flame.
No. Yeah. Social media is important, and Chrissy does a really good job of interacting. It's 100% crucial and important to legitimately interact with the people that are interacting with you 100%. And Chrissy does a really good job of doing that interaction.
Just so knows, we run our own socials. There's no label doing it or anything. So if you're talking,
right,
it is one of the three of us at all times.
That's cool.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, Chris, you want to talk about your social media approach a little bit? Because I mean, you're kind of the guy.
Well, I mean, it's just like you said, that throwing a single flame emoji on people's comments. But the thing is though, is that like I try and gear towards or aim my direction towards a certain idea when I get on social media. And this doesn't happen for all platforms, but on some platforms, if somebody tags our song, right? Well, it doesn't come into our notifications. We go and we hit the song and we go and find it, right? So with one of our songs on TikTok, it's got over 10,000 song plays or something like that now. And so it's like I'm trying to keep up with that in the sense of going on and just thanking everyone and saying thank you for using our song, right? And what that does is they just found this song that they think is awesome and it just resonates with them, but they don't really know who we are, right? And so when I go in and I drop a line to them and I say, hey, thank you for, using the song, it makes it more personal. Like, oh, they're actually a band, it's not like this computer fucking that's just on here, the song that I found. It's actually a band and they commented on my thing. Thank you for commenting. And that kind of helps the growth as well too. It is a lot. It does take a lot of time to do those kind of things, but I do think that it's important because not only are we thanking them for using our song and sharing it, because when they share it, it plays and it gets seen by so many other people, but also too, it lets them know that we are real people. They can come visit our site, our social medias, and they can join the party if they want to, you know what I'm saying? And have a good time. So it's a lot of work, but it's definitely going to be worth it. And making those personal interactions helps a lot.
Yeah. Wow,
Makes
that's powerful.
And we want people to feel like there's a connection between this band and them also. Like, I appreciate the bands that keep up the mystique, keep up whatever, and just don't respond. But like, for me personally, like growing up, I would have killed for some band that I gave my time to just be like, dude, you guys are awesome, to just respond and be like, thank you so much. But like, it doesn't really happen a lot. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I think about what I would have been as a listener, or what I would have been, because I don't know the age of these people or wherever they are in their life. You know what I mean? And it's just like, it would have meant so much to me to just have a response from somebody that I cared enough to listen to their music or share a song or do something like that. You know what I mean? And it's just like, giving that kind of a response is so positive, and it's such a big deal, I think, to just make those types of moves. And at the end of the day, I am truly grateful for having those people play those songs. I mean, like, that's a huge thing to have somebody take something that meant so much to you and then find out that it means something to them enough to share it with the people that they care about. I mean, that's the whole reason that, I mean, it's just, you write songs for yourself, but like, knowing that it's doing something for other people, like that's what music is, man. And you've got to thank those people, and you've got to connect to those people and let them know that you fucking care, because, it's like, you don't want to seem like some faceless corporation or something like that that's just doing whatever. Like, that's what is important, So,
I'm still stoked when I'm still a fan, even though I'm a musician and in a band too. And someone that I look up to, maybe I left them a comment on something and they like it. I'm like, oh my God, so-and-so like knows I exist. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, it is a great feeling. And there's no more fulfilling feeling, at least for me personally as an artist, than to know that what you've created has connected with someone on some way, and to get that feedback. Because there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears of making that thing even something that you release in the first place. And you do it for yourself, but then once it's released, it's theirs. And so to have that feedback, that's what it's all about right there. And, especially even like TikTok, I mean, say what you want about it. And it's a little new for us and our generation and stuff like that. But I mean, it's been huge for us. One song in particular, No Longer Broken, was our first single we released on Iron Shore in January of last year, of 2022. And, it's got like, people started sharing it on TikTok videos because of the subject matter and the theme and the lyrics and maybe just the vibe and the tone of it. And it just, like Chrissy was saying, they might not know we're a band or what this is. Maybe it was just a good song for their video, but it created a lot of awareness. And there's a direct correlation to like Spotify numbers and our monthly listeners. And then that song has like over 5 million streams in the first, 16 months or whatever. And so there is a direct correlation of actually making fans and getting in front of people,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so exciting to hear a band, I guess, verbalize that is to be like, you have to communicate that. You have to communicate that you're thankful that, one, they acknowledge your existence, and two, they acknowledge your music and they connect with something that was so personal to you. Once you release it, it's out there, and that forms that, whether it's an emotional bond, but it forms that connection, and that really builds that community feel. And that's
absolutely,
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a vulnerable feeling as an artist. You spend all this time creating something and you release it. It's just like, okay,
Yeah.
now what? Like,
Right.
Does anyone like it? Do they
Shit, I
hate
hope they
it?
like it.
Kind of weird. You know what I mean?
Did I even upload that right? I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The song's out,
Was
right?
this
guys?
was this the second to last? Did I upload the demo version or did I upload the final?
True that. What was saved in my phone again? That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you guys had given us two of your songs, which one was No Longer Broken and the other one was Eye of Horus, to put kind of bookend the show that so fans could know, hear you and understand what you're about. Again, that'll be on Spotify exclusive on the radio edit version of this podcast. They will hear it as part of the show. It'll naturally flow. So you gave us No Longer Broken and Eye of Horus. I think I understand why you gave us No Longer Broken, other than the fact I love it too. But Eye of Horus, what kind of drove you to select those songs out of your whole collection?
Well, first off, Eye of Horus is our most recent release. But I think after having this conversation with you all today, it's like the perfect song to have on here, because literally the song's subject matter is what we're talking about. It's the musical journey. It's the journey that you take, that's driven by your passions, that's driven by your dreams, like the things that you care about. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's the culmination at this point of all of the things that we've talked about, where we started from, where we came from, where we're going, what keeps us coming back and not giving up and doing the things that we're doing, And it's just like, for me anyways, like lyrically, that's what it was. It was this reflection because of COVID, because of all the things that have happened, where I look back at my life, my mortality, like all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, what is the reason that, like, what's making me tick here? You know what I mean? And I thought about like all the times that I've quit behind closed doors and all the times where I was just like, screw it. You know what I mean? Like, this is too hard and all that stuff. Cause it happens. Everybody, no matter where they are, whether they say it or not, has quit in a time of just fuck it. You know what I mean? And it's literally music, this project, these guys, like those are the things that I found that like brought me back into my love of music again, And it's like, that's what this song is about, is just what is keeping me going, what keeps me going. And that's what this song is about to me anyways.
Keep your eye on the prize, baby.
Yeah.
Wow. That's powerful.
I mean, yeah.
Music is beautiful. I love it for so many reasons.
Absolutely.
As we kind of wrap up here, I am so thankful for you guys just sharing the time today, sharing the knowledge for, upcoming bands that listen, sharing the knowledge for even bands bigger than you that tune in. There's a lot of people who may or may not know some of these things, and obviously getting more information about Alphamega out. That's what we are here for. So where is the most ideal place for, that you feel fans should reach out, find you, or connect? Obviously, go stream you on Spotify, Apple, everywhere you can stream music. But is there like a specific social platform that you guys, hey, it's, this, and we talk quicker, or we get back to fans quicker here or something?
I would personally say Instagram because we all are on that. You know what I'm saying? Not all of us are on other socials and stuff. But we're more frequently Instagram is what I would say. You guys agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, Instagram's probably the best place to get in touch with us for sure.
That's awesome. Okay. That's great. Awesome. Yeah, we'll have all the links below, or we'll have links to, obviously your discography and probably the YouTube videos. I know that will be on the Dear Untitled website, but say in the YouTube description, people will be able to find that there. Podcast descriptions, again, should all be there, but if it's not, that's on me.
Awesome.
So,
and can I just say on behalf of the guys here, thank you so much for having us on your platform and sharing that with us and allow us to reach your viewers. And you guys are awesome. And we really appreciate the time to be able to come in here and chat. It's our first podcast. So
hop in that podcast cherry, baby.
We did.
Podcast cherry. So
hopefully you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. Thank you guys again. You guys are awesome. And the conversation was phenomenal. So
yeah.
Thank you guys. Thanks.
This has been Nick Beardsley and Javi Mello and Alphamega on Dear Untitled Radio. Tune in next time. We'll see you then.
Thank you, guys.
Dear Untitled, here for the artists supporting the creatives.